Welcome everybody to the this is not the Anthony Irwin show.
Yeah, they're all kind of the Anthony Irwin
This
shows, but
is-
you can say it's your favorite day of the week if you want.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite day of the week. It is definitely Friday. It is definitely the hook now. And I was totally prepared for the beginning of this live edition. I'm really glad that we were live for this.
Clearly.
All right, let's start over. Welcome everybody to your favorite day of the week.
Leave the first part in.
I'm Anthony Irwin. That is Aaron Larsol. This is the hook. I am not even drinking, although I should be. It's like good day drinking weather. It's like storming outside right now. It's good like whiskey weather.
I mean, every weather is whiskey weather. But as you can see, well, the people that are watching on Twitter or YouTube or where else can they watch? Is that it? Where else can they?
This
Facebook,
is
right?
On Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
Yeah, two of those are dying platforms. But as you can see, I haven't shaved in a while. And I have on a hoodie because it is, that meme where it's like 75 degrees in California. And it's actually mid 60s and I'm freezing. But I am not drinking. Well, I'm drinking, but coffee, my second one of the day.
So it's funny you're drinking because I think I read cold brew on there.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no idea that was like more caffeinated than the average cup of coffee.
No, it's rocket fuel. Yeah.
So I was like, I went out for coffee with, I had a buddy of mine like coming out. He came out for like a business conference and we were going to go drop him off at the airport. We went out for lunch and there's a really nice coffee shop out here that's on a lake. It's a really pretty setting.
Okay.
And I wasn't feeling like flavored coffee. It was hot though, so I didn't want like hot coffee out there. So I was just like, I'll try this cold brew thing. And both my wife and my friend looked at me like, what are you doing? I have a heart condition. She's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm just ordering cold coffee. What? And they were like, no, that's cold brew. That's
that's different.
Nitrous.
Yeah, that's
being
different.
Injected in your system.
You could the iced coffee is like regular, just hot coffee, but cold. Cold brew is something entirely different, and so that you know that it's different, or one way you know that it's different is most. I think like the Starbucks one specifically, they sell as a concentrate, and I just so my brother at my brother's house. See, this is why I have to consider getting, well, for another reason too, but this is why I have to consider maybe having a significant other again, is because like whenever I go over to my brother's house, I don't know if his wife goes to Trader Joe's or he goes to Trader Joe's and Costco every single day, but I cook all the time, but I have
Costco's the shit.
The Bachelor refrigerator. Like I'll go and buy stuff. I'm going to make something specific.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise,
so you have like
mustard, champagne and champagne mustard and like liquor. That's all that's in my refrigerator. So I don't know who in my brother's household goes to Trader Joe's and Costco every single day, but when I'm over there, the best snacks. So maybe I should consider this. Anyway, they have the Starbucks.
You can be single and have a Costco membership. It's not.
Oh no, I have a Costco membership.
Yeah,
I just don't go. I only go if I'm going to do a big barbecue or I need to restock toilet paper and paper towels.
We are the opposite person. We are like I thought Harrison and I were just complete polar opposite people, but like we live the opposite lifestyle. Like you and I, we are.
It's a little different.
Yin and yang.
It's a little different, my brother. It's a little. Anyway, so the cold brew from Starbucks comes in a concentrate. So that's how you know it's like extra powerful because you're supposed to dilute it with water. And every time I go over to my brother's house,
did you drink it
his
straight?
wife will ask me, like, do you want cold? Or I'll just go get it out the fridge and start pouring it. And she's like, no, you have to dilute it. I'm like, nah, just directly into my veins. Let's go. But the only things I drink are coffee, black coffee, either cold brew or hot, black coffee, liquor, just straight liquor. I don't really drink beer or wine that much. Just straight liquor or sparkling water are the only things I drink. So when I need my cold brew, I got to balance out the booze. So the cold brew just the concentrate directly into my veins.
I don't think that's very healthy. Like I think
I have never claimed to be.
I'm not a doctor, but I think just going like this constantly is not good for your system.
Probably not. Probably not. How about the 21 surgeries I've had? Is that good?
You know what else isn't very healthy for us is this Lakers season. This
Yeah,
Lakers season is not good for anybody's health.
That's a good transition. That's a
You know,
professional
I'm
broadcast segue.
getting a little bit better.
I don't want to hear it.
Speaking,
I go see all this shit in person, so I don't want to hear it.
no, I can understand why you drink straight cold brew concentrate just so you're awake long enough to go watch that shit and then fall immediately asleep. That's I wouldn't want to be awake any other time either.
I also don't eat really, which is also kind of strange.
So yeah, quick couple notes before we get going here.
Yes.
We are going to talk about this Lakers season. They are 11 games in and have a must-win game, it feels like, coming up. A few must-wins coming up. So that's odd. I want to talk a little bit more as Chris Haynes reported yesterday, a whole bunch of stuff on the Lakers situation. LeBron James tweeted about Kyrie Irving. And then like a few hours later was when Chris Haynes came out with that stuff. Surely no connection between those two things. And then I also want to give a shout out to Meta World Peace. He came out on my show yesterday, had a blast with him. Really fun conversation about his approach to stuff off of the court. And then I also talked to him about his time with the Lakers, whether players know about title windows closing. Is that something that's just kind of known in a locker room? No real connection between that and the season they're currently having. The Lakers are currently having. And yeah, it was a fun conversation. But Aaron, I asked you to remind me about this, and actually part of the reason I texted you from my desktop is so that I would have that note up. Mm-hmm. Do you want the peak Anthony Irwin tinfoil theory that I have? It's the best one I've ever had.
Okay. Well, tinfoil hat Anthony is my favorite Anthony, so sure.
Shouts to Alexis. Yeah, it was a fun episode. Meta was great. All right. This won't take long. This is a quick tangent. This is about baseball, so hang with us.
Okay.
So the Houston Astros win the World Series, right?
That's what they tell me.
Yeah. So they won the World Series.
I think so. I don't. When the A's are as bad as the A's generally are, I don't watch much baseball.
Yeah, I mean, you only really have to care about baseball for like the first month of the season. Did you guys hear that?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. It was ominous. This is what's coming. This is what's coming is very ominous. This Indeed. Is right over my house. We are getting bucketed. So yeah, I hate the Astros, and I'm looking for any reason whatsoever to disqualify any success that they have.
Yes.
And I've landed on this as the means to do it.
Okay.
So they won the World Series, and I found it odd over the course of their time in the playoffs that exactly, Alexis, the cheating ass Astros. I agree. But they're in the playoffs, and as they're heading into the World Series, I kept seeing national writers who have some kind of a relationship with the league because of how long they've been doing this. And I kept seeing some version of it really behooves everybody to move on from the cheating scandal and just give the Astros their props. And I was like, why? They even at one point said that Philly needs to go easy on them and be less Philly as as they root against them.
You're talking about?
Yeah, be less mean to them for some reason. And I was like, what?
You ain't getting that from Philly fans. I can promise.
What is going on? Do you know one who you're talking about? Two, right. Why would you tell them to calm down on these guys? And I was like, what is going? And I've landed on this. This is my tinfoil hat theory, and I'm going to hold this till the day I die.
Okay.
I think it behooves Major League Baseball for the Astros to win the World Series coming off of that, right? If you had a scandal,
to get one, so we don't have to talk about that one.
Yeah, anymore. If the only World Series that they win is the one that should have an asterisk on it, then forever from that point forward, anytime we talk about that team, it's about that, right? And then the sport. I
don't hate this.
The sport also, by the way, real light on them. No real punishment when they won the World Series the way that they did. It's like a slap on the wrist. Actually, players who were beating their guys because it was the cheating ass Astros and they weren't punished got punished more than the Astros did for cheating.
The GM and the manager and all that. And by the way, to add another log on the fire of this great tinfoil hat,
let's go
Anthony.
For it.
This also was the first World Series title for who is widely regarded as one of the good guys. I abhor. Well, Stanford football is the team in sports I hate most. But directly on their heels are the San Francisco Giants. So I was rooting. I wanted the Astros to lose because they're cheaters and because I don't like Dusty Baker.
Mm.
But I am in the minority opinion because everybody loves Dusty Baker. So for him to win his first also makes it kind of a feel-good story. So add that log to the fire too.
So yeah, I think I thought that this World Series, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch very much of it because I knew they were going to win. Like Philly, really fun story and all that, but they won 87 games and they weren't that, like, they got real hot at the right time and raced through the NL and then, cooled down in the World Series. So yeah, I just think that, for the way that things played out, all I'm going to say is that baseball benefited from that outcome. Everybody gets to, they can all try to move on. You had all these national voices telling everybody, hey guys, it's time to move on. I will not fucking move on. They took a World Series from my Dodgers.
So what did you want to have happen? What did you want to have happen? Yeah, and Kershaw.
They needed to strip the title. They needed to strip the title, put an asterisk on it.
The Dodgers don't get it either. Just
no. I just think that World Series didn't happen.
I agree. Yeah,
that's what happened to the Black Sox, and they did way less.
Yeah, and that's what happens in in college football.
In almost every other sport, it was wild.
Certainly in college,
how little punishment they got. Yeah. So, all right, that was my. I've been sitting on it. I've been trying to find the right place to say it, and since you enjoy this part of me so much,
I do. This was the first baseball tinfoil hat, Anthony. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's about everything. It's my brain's a scary place. All right, I guess we'll talk about the Lakers. Speaking of scary places, they are playing tonight in the moneylaundering.com arena. They are playing against the Sacramento Kings, and they need this one. They are not going to be playing without. They're going to be playing without LeBron James. They might be playing without Anthony Davis, as apparently everybody in the organization has the stomach flu. Aaron, I think you might have to start passing around that nitro cold brew concentrate as a means to just like murder any and all flu germs in that arena. You're like, I think you're incapable of getting the flu because it's like rubbing alcohol and cold brew nitrate is your like stomach fluid.
This is funny. And so because normally I would say unnamed cognac, but I have to actually say the brand for this story. There was at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a governor of, I don't even remember where, it was somewhere in Africa, but I don't remember where, but he was the governor of some territory in Africa. His name was Mike Sonko, I believe. And there was a thing on CNN. I was watching CNN and there was a story about him sending out care packages to prevent the spread of COVID, and included in that was Hennessy. And he decided that Hennessy. I mean, I think there was other parts of it too, but he literally was sending bottles of Hennessy to all his constituents because he had decided, or he thought, or someone told him that it inoculated your throat and your system against COVID. I was like, well, fuck this. I ain't never getting COVID. So maybe that is the answer.
Was he reelected? Like, do we know if he's still a successful politician?
I don't know, but if you go on
because the guy who was telling everybody to drink bleach, he lost.
Well, that's
so
true.
Like if we want to find the secret to politics here, tell people to drink alcohol versus tell people to drink
it's certainly
bleach.
It certainly has its negative effects. Alcohol does, but the one thing I can promise you is it's healthier to drink and insert any alcohol as opposed to bleach. That I can assure you. So yes, everybody has been, well, not everybody, but quite a few people. It has been going around. Quite a few people have been and continue to be sick. Obviously, LeBron and Pat Bev and Lonnie Walker and now AD. But it feels kind of strange, after 11 games to say maybe this season is on the brink. But I think it is. It does feel like that. And I don't know if tonight specifically is a must win, but it is certainly
some of these
this stretch is. Yeah. So, all right, I'm going to give you, because the thought is this is the soft part of the schedule, kind of starting tonight. I disagree with that. The soft part of the schedule started Wednesday night. I'm going to read you of the next, including the Clippers game, and then tonight and the following 7. So 9 games
Aaron,
total.
the soft part of the schedule should have started back on November 4th. Yeah, but Utah's a buzzsaw.
Right. We thought Portland was going to suck, right? And Portland's been really good.
I didn't think they were going to stop. I didn't know where that was coming from. I always kind of like everybody was all high on
not suck, but like be a fringe playoff play-in team.
Like, and they might come back down to earth. You know, they're a thin rotation and all that stuff. But like,
they've been winning games without Dame.
That's true. But people were all high on like Minnesota, and I was like, they're really, really slow.
I was high on Minnesota in the regular season,
and then people were just kind of like writing off Portland for some reason. I was like, all they did was upgrade it. They just got a shit ton of wings. Like, that's how you win in this league. I'm telling you, everybody who is listening to this right now, it's really annoying to talk basketball with me because it really does wind out like most of my takes just like, who has the better wings? Like that's it. Like who like if you were to just concentrate all of my takes like Aaron takes his coffee, it would essentially be who has the best wings. That's it.
Okay, so I think tonight, not necessarily a must win, but I think I'm going to include the Clippers game and then the following 8 games, one of which is tonight. So in these 9 games, here is the net rating of the opponents that the Lakers are playing. I think that is more indicative of a team's actual quality and more predictive than a team's record, right?
Yep.
All right. So the Clippers were 20th. The Kings tonight are 18th. Then 13th, 30th, 27th, first, the Suns, 27th, 27th, and 19th. Yeah. And all but 3 of those games, one in Phoenix and 2 in San Antonio, the little weird baseball back-to-back like series, all but 3 of those 3 are the only ones that are out of crypto. Technically the Lakers were the road team on Wednesday against the Clippers. If you're telling me that this is not the soft spot of the schedule, I don't know what is a soft spot of the schedule. What is an easy part of the schedule? It's not going to get easier than this. Now, will the Lakers be good enough, connected enough, healthy enough, et cetera, to take advantage of that? That's a different question, but that doesn't change the fact that this is the soft part of the schedule, and the Lakers better do some damage in this soft part of the schedule, or I think the season may get away from them.
I mean, it was like last year, right? The season started out with a lot of home games. It was against a lot of teams that wound up not being very good. And the fact that the Lakers just kind of were mediocre through that stretch, that was, to me, the first red flag. That and LeBron, AD, and Russ, I think they were in the negative or not very high above the positive, overall. In that first stretch was scary to me too.
The part that was the fit looked weird immediately.
Well, they kept starting.
Russ had a bad opener against the Warriors, which was like here in LA, which was concerning. But what really the red flag for me was I think it was like twice in 4 or 5 games losing to OKC with a 20-point lead both times. That made me go a little bit. Yeah. So this is and by the way, like, LeBron's health is a big factor in this. AD's like all of that, but like too bad.
Aaron, can I ask
you? This is the easy stretch.
I hope this gets aggregated, but I'm curious. When you walk around the practice facility, are guys sharing Gatorade bottles? Like, are they making out in the hallways? Is spit shaking a big part of their like?
I have seen neither of those things happen. Neither of those things.
Because, like, what the hell?
there is like on the practice court, there is a refrigerator on the side where there are bottles of water and Gatorade and such. So they are using the same refrigerator, but I have not seen guys share. Did Patient
Zero walk around licking all of those bottles of water?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of. No.
This is like the Lakers season is going to be sunk by a terrible offseason and the stomach flu.
It reminds me of that like terrible movie that I love because it maybe has the best cast ever, or like the most famous Outbreak, which is a terrible movie that I love.
Never saw that one.
It is. Oh shit! It's probably 20 years old at least at this point. Maybe more than that. But
I remember it. I remember seeing
Rene Russo and Dustin Hoffman and Morgan Freeman and Donald Sutherland and Cuba Gooding Jr. and basically it's like this monkey escapes and bites like somebody, and then they start passing around this terrible disease.
Did it predict
and
COVID?
I mean, kind of, but
Yeah.
it was well, depending on what you believe or who you believe. It was like in actually, you know what? I'm not going to say what it was in case nobody's seen it. I don't want to spoil it, even though the movie's 25 years old. I won't spoil it.
25-year-old movie.
Well, right. It's like,
Spoiler alert
Twitter,
from the Bible.
right?
Jesus comes back, everybody. Sorry.
Yeah, you gotta right. On Twitter, I get mad if people like ruin stuff. There has to be like is there a standard? Is it 48 hours? Is that like the standard? Because now everybody's seeing Black Panther.
Yeah,
so,
I
don't like.
I try to give
I'm gonna
people
not
2
ruin,
weekends.
I'm gonna not ruin Outbreak, even though it is from like 97.
Yeah. You're a Marvel guy, right? You like Marvel? Or you're more Star Wars than Marvel?
Oh yeah, no, I'm definitely more Star Wars than Marvel. I wonder if there were like 30 of those things. I'm not that into it. I've seen some of them.
It's a lot.
Actually, at this point, I've probably seen half of them or something like that.
Yeah.
And then that what was the End Game, and what was the other one?
Infinity War.
Yeah. Man, what was it, 3.5 hours, man? What? I don't have the patience for that.
I went and saw the new Black Panther last night. I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to give anything away. I will say that it was probably the movie most specifically written for me. It had like there's a heavy Mexican presence in it, which I was all about. A heavy oceanic presence, which I'm definitely all about. Some of the characters ride on a killer whale, which is what?
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
it's anyway, but yeah, it was pretty good. All right, so the Lakers, their next few games, Sacramento at home, Brooklyn at home, Detroit at home, San Antonio at home. I think they rip off all of their games against San Antonio here in the next like week or so.
Well, it's 3 of 4. I don't know if there's a fourth one.
Do they play? I don't know, because sometimes like every so often you don't play a fourth game against.
So it's so you play 4 games against everybody in your division, and then in the rest of the conference you play 4 games against most teams, and you play 3 against, I think it's 3 teams.
All right, so they play January 25th. They play against San Antonio again, but yeah. So they have San Antonio at home, at Phoenix, at San Antonio, versus Phoenix, versus Portland. That is through the end of the month.
Whoa.
What?
No, you skipped one.
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
I said
Indiana at home.
I said yeah.
No, you said Phoenix. You said Phoenix. You said Phoenix again.
All right. So versus the Pacers versus Portland.
There you go.
And that's the end of the month. LeBron James is considered out certainly for this game and considered day to day from that point forward.
Yes.
Interestingly enough, last time he had a groin injury, I don't think it was as clearly bad. This one wasn't as clearly bad as the last time he hurt his groin. But last time he was considered day to day for like 3 months. So
yeah, but that was you're talking about the Christmas day in Golden State. Yeah, Rondo also broke his hand in the same game. And the Lakers still won, by the way. And that was like KD monster Warriors. So yes, and he said that, right? He told True asked him in the post-game press conference after he heard it on Wednesday, asked him about it, and LeBron said it's not nearly as bad. I take from this what you will, and I believe he said if it was a playoff game, he would have stayed in. So take for that what you will. And he looked. He did not appear to have a limp. He was at. He went to his son's, I think they're like Midnight Madness thing yesterday, and I saw video of him walking around. He didn't have a limp. He looked okay. That doesn't mean he can run and cut and jump and play NBA basketball for 36 minutes a night, which is what he's doing now. But with I'm going to take him at his word that it's not as serious, and it didn't. From the outward indications are that it's not as serious. I don't. Yeah, I would guess he probably doesn't play Sunday either. But then after that, the Lakers have a longer break than normal, and so him not playing tonight and then not playing Sunday gives him, I think it's like a week or so in between games.
Yeah, when he heard it on the Christmas game, right, on that Christmas day where he like tore his groin, it was clearly like all right, that's where he did it. we saw it. Like we saw the play. It happened in the middle of the paint too, which I can still remember the play vividly. Right elbow-ish. He goes to plant and spin the other way. He slips off with his left foot and facing the camera and is down.
It was also like shocking because it was the first time we had ever seen LeBron like do that. Like that happened to him where you're like, wait a second, this looks like it might be something. Right. Normally he sprains his ankle and he gets right back up and ties his shoes and he's made of vibranium and he just is like, whatever.
Well, that one and when he had that high ankle sprain too, right? Same thing where like you saw the play happen. He like limped around the court, scored his 10th point, and then got the hell out of the game. Right. I just but anyway, against Sacramento beat the shit out of the Lakers in the preseason. So I don't know if I would consider that an easy win.
Sacramento is, I mean, look, without LeBron, it's different, and who knows with AD, but Sacramento is bad.
Well, Aaron, I hate to break it to you, but
I'm not saying it's an easy
the
win.
Lakers have the same record as the Houston Rockets right now.
I understand. I'm not saying that the Lakers are any good. I am saying that
sure. They're the games they have to win. I'm just saying that it's not an easy win in my book.
There are no easy wins. The Lakers have been bad so far. There are no easy wins, but Sacramento is bad also. So Sacramento is in the category of bad. Yeah. Let's not boost up Sacramento. Sacramento's bad.
Aaron, we saw I'm not boosting up anybody when I say we saw them beat the shit out of the Lakers. Like in the preseason, we saw them whoop them.
Yeah. I don't know how relevant that is to now, but yes.
Yeah, preseason is the kind of setting where a super deep team, like a team that has a bunch of NBA guys, like Sacramento does, they're going to look good in the preseason, especially like when the Max Christies of the world come in and when the Scottie Pippen Juniors of the world come in and they're going up against guys who have like 5 or 6 year NBA careers. At that point, you're going to get run off the court. So that was at play too, but the Lakers have only 2 wins, so I'm not considering it's an easier win, but it's not there are no wins that I'm looking at and I'm like, all right, that's a W in the box, especially with LeBron.
Relative to the rest of the NBA, Sacramento is on the easier side. Yes.
How many of these, we'll say they have 3 games between now and a week from now, right? Between now and Friday, November 18th, they have 3 games. How many of those games do the Lakers have to win? Why is it 3?
I mean, yes. I mean, it is because this is the soft part of the schedule, right? Yeah. And the Lakers need an injection of like belief, right? And a reason to stick together and all of those sort of things. And as Russ has said, with his sacrifice, it's harder. And I'm just using this example because he is the one that said this. Mm-hmm. But like sacrifice is hard when you're not getting the results, right? Putting in the work and putting in, right? And everybody's sacrificing. AD doesn't want to be a center full time, right? And he is. That's a sacrifice. Russ coming off the bench, that is, even though clearly is better for his game and better for the team if he's doing that, is a sacrifice. And all of the little things that you have to do to win basketball games are much easier to stick with when you're getting the results. So I think the Lakers have to, so it's Sacramento, it's the Nets, like Friday is Detroit. Detroit is the worst team in the NBA. Like these are the games that the Lakers plainly have to win, period.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
And if AD's not playing and LeBron's not, the NBA doesn't stop. And are the Lakers going to win without those guys? No, probably not. But like, this is what the NBA is.
If they go over here and they're sitting at 2 and what would that be? 14?
2 and 13. You said the next 4 games, right?
They're 2 and 9 right now?
Yep.
Yeah. So if they go, because they have, after that, they have San Antonio. So the next 4 games are all like, they should be wins. Like when I was looking at the schedule at the beginning of the year, I looked at those 4 games and I said, those should be wins because I didn't believe in Brooklyn either. And yet, here we're talking about a 2-win Lakers team, and I'm not, as I just said a second ago, I'm not comfortable saying that any of these are wins. But if they go 0 of 4 in the next 4 before they go down and they play Phoenix, and will probably pick up their 5th straight loss of this stretch. If they go down there, if they lose all 4 of these games, and they're sitting at 2-13, there's already talk about whether the Lakers are going to forego the season and I'm not going to say go into the tank because there's no point in tanking, but the notion of trading a first round pick kind of goes out the window. The thing is, though, I can't believe we're here before Thanksgiving talking about, this is it. This is the Lakers just don't have a chance this year.
No, mathematically, of course it's not, right? There was a Miami team a few years ago that started 11-30 and finished 30-11, right? And ended up at 500. So mathematically, no, but I do agree with you that it kind of feels like now or never. It kind of feels like the season is teetering a little bit. So no, are the Lakers out of it if they are 2-13? No, but part of that is if you feel out of it, it's much more difficult to hold the rope, right? It's much more difficult to claw your way back, even if it feels like, all right, I don't know why this popped in my head. I suffer from depression, and there are days where it's really difficult for me to get out of bed. And part of, at least for me, what depression is sometimes tasks seem so great that I am overwhelmed, even to the point of like inaction. It makes it very difficult for me to take even the first step, right? I don't see, a step and a step and a step, and you get to wherever, right? I think you mentioned this. There was a Kobe quote about, like sometimes the mountaintop seems too high. So you have to like take a step, and eventually you're at like one summit, and then you keep going and you get there. Mm-hmm. For me, that is very difficult, sometimes impossible. Sometimes I don't see the steps, or sometimes I see the steps, but wherever I'm going or trying to get to seems so far away that I'm kind of paralyzed and inactive, and I have to fight myself on it all the time. And the same thing can be true of a basketball team, right? Like at 2-13, it's very hard at 2-13 to go, okay, like if we win 2 out of 3 here, and we win 3 out of 4 here, and we split these 2, like you start climbing back into it. If it feels like it's over, even if it isn't, that makes the task much more difficult. So in that way, mathematically, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it is a big deal, but mathematically, it's like you've played, 20% of the season. But if it feels like it's too big of a mountain to climb, that becomes self-fulfilling.
Is there, in terms of their approach, over these next few games, and by the way, if I could, I'd give you a hug right now. Just
thanks.
But like in terms of their approach these next few games, potentially with LeBron out, is there? I think there's a case to be made that you start Russ again. You start playing Russ. You take on the identity of the hopefully bringing that tornado and harnessing it and getting that chaotic energy out there again. I know Darvin is a lot like Luke Walton in that he likes to try to keep his rotations solid and consistent. But I think in this case here, I think I would start Russ tonight. I would start Russ. I would get as much talent that you can right from the beginning of a game, and just again, like you're talking about, take that first step. Take that first step, win it quarter by quarter, and take care of business, little task by little task, so that that tree that you're hoping to chop down, that sequoia, eventually starts to come down, but it won't if like you take a butter knife to it. If you take something less than the tool that you need to, that tree's not coming down.
So I think and by the way, this is also complicated by if AD plays or not. But I think this is one of those things, right? I don't want to be Darius and say yes and no, right? I don't want to hedge, but I think that I think there is a fair case to be made on both sides. I see the reasoning in it has been better for Russ off the bench and for the team with Russ coming off the bench. So, like, you don't want to mess with that, and you don't want to mess with like Russ knows what it is. He's been around, but you don't want to like. It seems like there's been more buy-in from Russ to that as opposed to him just rejecting that out of hand earlier in his Lakers tenure. So maybe you don't want to mess with that, and you don't want to mess with him psychologically. But I also see the point of like, yeah, you need the talent and you need something. You need plus this is not a team that is full of shot creation and ball handling.
Yeah.
And without LeBron, it's pretty much just Russ. I mean, you get shot creation from AD. If Schroeder was around, like that would be different. You get shot creation some from AD, but it's not like offense initiation and like he can do a little bit as a ball handler in the pick and roll, but not like pretty much the shot creation on this team is LeBron and Russ. And so, yeah, I see that logic too.
It'd be one thing if Pat was playing better. Like Pat hasn't played well this year. And
correct.
Like,
but I think Pat has I think for the very reason that you mentioned, I think it's important that Pat starts because you need I think the Lakers are going to need no, it's not even a basketball reasons thing. I think it is a spirit thing. And Pat has looked hesitant to shoot.
He did just forego talking to media the other day too. That stood out to me. That was kind of interesting.
I think you need like that whirlwind of activity to try to get some belief like early. I think if the Lakers go down, start the game down 16-4 or something, then like it starts taking on water. So I think and it's not Pat has been bad. Mm-hmm. But I think you need that like aggressiveness, that belief, that whirlwind tornado of activity that can get some belief in the guys. I think so. I personally would start both of them.
I just want it known that as you were making the case for Patrick Beverley to start, we had a giant rip of thunder right over the house.
Does that mean yes or no?
It was like I think Pat needs to start. Yeah, I think
want
somebody up there disagrees,
or they agree. They agree vehemently.
They're like banging the table. Yes,
this is the sign. Well, here's the other thing. Like, I can give you basketball. I mean, there is a basketball reason. Is I don't know who else is going to guard De'Aaron Fox if it's not Pat Bev.
See, this is interesting because I think Russ is a pretty bad team defender, but I think if you give Russ a singular assignment and you just say like, "Hey, go get that guy." Right? Like if when he's in the post and a team is trying to post him up, he takes that as like a personal affront.
Yeah,
and he works his ass off.
Yeah, but he doesn't as much when he's just like guarding point guards. He does when people try to punk him, like you're too little to do this. You're right. He has been pretty good at this. But the like point of attack guy is Pat Bev.
Yeah, Pat's just not been good enough for me to be like, that's the guy who needs to be on.
He's been fine defensively. He's just been a zero on offense. He's been okay defensively. He hasn't been great. He's been okay.
His legs look pretty. Like he hasn't been Pat. Like he hasn't been good enough that I'm like that guy has to be our point of attack defender.
Who is the alternative?
Well, Dennis when he gets back for one
tonight. Who is the alternative?
I would still go Russ or I would go Lonnie. Like I would go with either of those guys. Like I just. The Lakers need talent, and there's one thing you can't say about Pat right now is he's really talented.
No, that's not. You can say he's not playing well.
I think he's washed. Like I think there's a lot. It's like Charles used to say, and I know I've used this example a few times on the show, but when guys start hesitating and they're all we're on a first name basis on Chuck and I.
Yep.
But yeah, when guys start hesitating and nobody is around them, that's a giant red flag that guy doesn't trust his body right now. That guy, that player is just...
He doesn't trust his jumper, clearly. I don't know if it's his body, but he clearly doesn't trust his jumper.
I think his fouling is up too, right?
I can say the same thing about Austin, by the way.
Yeah, I agree. I agree about... I mean... I think with Austin, it's more of a confidence thing. I don't think it's I think with Pat, it's a physical thing. He's 6? He's not young.
I don't think he's that old, but he's not. No, he's not young.
Yeah.
No, I don't think he's 36, but that does remind me of him telling Steph, if he's old, there's no way he's older than Steph, who's 34. What he told like a few years back, he told like
He's 34. He's 34.
The last 5 years were yours, the next 5 years are mine to Steph. I was gonna say if he's older, he might be older than Steph. That is a wild statement if he is, but that kind of confidence, I think, is something. And by the way, he hasn't been imbuing the team with that so much. But I think he and Russ are probably the two guys that are capable of that. And I think that's important to start this game.
Yeah. Then I mean, it's tough because I think Lonnie has to play. He's been the Lakers' like third best player this year.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't start both Pat and Russ, I don't think. Or I know you can't because again, Lonnie's their like second most talented player on the team if LeBron is out.
Isn't that how the season? Isn't that how the season started though?
What do you mean?
Lonnie, Pat, Bev, Russ, AD, and
that's too
and LeBron.
Small.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but like saying you can't do that. That is how they started. And like, if LeBron, what are the alternatives?
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I guess that's one option that they have. And if Russ is playing defense on wings better than Smalls, you can maybe throw him on like Harrison Barnes, I guess. But
Harrison Barnes, who's shooting like it's the 2016 NBA Finals again, by the way.
Hey man, he sees the light at the end of the tunnel here. Like he's like, hey, I'm a free agent at the end of the season. At the very least, maybe they trade me to a team that is not Sacramento, and I can get my ass up out of here. You do you, Harrison Barnes, is all I'm saying. Like you do you. I'm proud of him. I'm proud of good old Harry B. Do your thing, dude.
He's a good
get out of Sacramento. You can do it.
He's a good dude.
What was his name? It's like, was it Black Falcon? Right? That was.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's right.
Shouts to Harry B.
And by the way, he's like had a good career. He's a good NBA player. He's been terrible this year, but
he's going a good to NBA be player. on a playoff team. I think this year. I think him and Kuz is another candidate for this. Both of those guys are going to be, I think, pretty big pickups at the deadline for some team that needs, again, wing depth. I know, shocker, as I said at the beginning of the thing, the concentrate of my sports take, of my basketball take is get the wing. And Harry B and Kuz, I think, are both two guys that
you like those. You do like those really 3-4s, don't you?
Hey, man, you defend multiple positions and you shoot efficient shots and don't need a bunch of time on the ball. That's what I want from my role players.
Speaking of,
the Lakers are like, I want the opposite of that. Whatever Anthony just said, give me the opposite of that.
Speaking of 3-4s, I think I just saw that Kawhi is now doing 5-on-5 work. So perhaps he will be back at some point, maybe.
I'm not. I don't like to waste showtime on part-time players. All right, so
speaking of Kyrie,
yeah, that's a great. There you go.
See? Look at this.
There you go. All right, we will segue over here to the latest, I guess, on Kyrie Irving. We were talking about this in the Slack and found the timing of LeBron's tweet interesting, especially given that shortly after that, Chris Haynes writes for Yahoo Sports about
Bleacher Report.
There you go. As Chris Haynes wrote for Bleacher Report, the inner workings of the Lakers and the machinations that are in play if and when they trade Russell Westbrook. One of the things that stood out to me for the sake of what you and I are going to be talking about here was LeBron. I'm going to make sure I have the phrasing correct on this. I should have had this up before we started talking. But James, who turns 38 next month and is in year 20 of his NBA career, does not want to waste a season of his high-level playing days in hopes of incoming reinforcements for the 2023-24 campaign, sources say. Other core players on the roster would likewise prefer those picks to be used to elevate this year's team. I wonder who that those other players would be. Do you think it's Schmanton and Schmavis?
I have no idea.
Also of Smutch Sports.
I have no idea. Not even a guess.
Yeah, so that report from Chris Haynes, followed by about 3 hours or so these tweets from LeBron, which read, I told you guys that I don't believe in sharing hateful information, hurtful information, and I'll continue to be that way. But Kyrie apologized, and he should be able to play. That's what I think. It's that simple. Help him learn, but he should be playing. What he's asked to do to get back on the floor, I think, is excessive, in my opinion. He's not the person that's being portrayed of him. Anyways, back to my rehab session and tweet.
Yeah. And this is also like.
Well, before you dive into, do you think there's a correlation between the timing of all that stuff? Because the timing was what really stood out to me. LeBron, like,
I don't know.
His people leak out. They leak out. Hey, the Lakers need to go out and get somebody. I don't want to waste another season going through this. People close to LeBron on the roster, Schmanthony Schmavis, if you will, also don't want to waste another season waiting for 2023-24. Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, we think Kyrie Irving should be playing. Do you think there's a correlation?
Well, here's what I was saying. I've said this about LeBron before. LeBron doesn't do things by accident. So I'm not saying that does mean anything specifically. Like, maybe it's a coincidence. Certainly possible. But LeBron doesn't do things by accident. So LeBron was feeling that and wanted to say that at that moment. Does that have anything to do with anything else? I don't know. And Chris Haynes is connected. He's connected all over the league. He's a good reporter. He usually gets stuff right. Obviously,
especially with players. Like Woj is with agents and executives, and Haynes is more with players.
Yes, and you've seen. I don't know who his source is on this, but to be fair, we have seen him with sit downs with LeBron. They seem to have a pretty good relationship. You can look through Chris's Twitter or Instagram or whatever, and you'll find pictures of him with LeBron. So. And you're right, he does have a good relationship with a lot of players. I don't know who his source was on this, but maybe it's coincidental, maybe it's not. But Chris is a good reporter and generally gets stuff right. And LeBron doesn't do anything by accident.
So yeah, there was a correlation. All right, so your thoughts though on the sentiment that LeBron is sharing here about Kyrie Irving and his apology, because one thing that struck me here as Shams was tweeting about the latest in the situation, I'm just going to read this from Shams. Quote: Josiah announces he and Clara.
Hold on. By the way, to put a little bow on our starting lineup discussion from earlier, the Lakers just sent out that Lonnie is probable for tonight. You'll already know this by the time you hear it, but Lonnie's probable tonight.
Good God. Whew. I miss him. He's really fun to watch play.
He is.
Like, it's kind of like I would watch Malik Monk last year, and I would say, like, playing basketball that way seems like fun. Being able to shoot from 40 and then also get up and dunk with your nose near the rim, that seems like a really fun existence.
Speaking of Malik, do you think we get a Malik tribute video tonight? The THT one. We got a
I'll
THT
tweet one. I will tweet one.
Okay. All right.
All right. So Shams Charania, here's his tweet. Josiah announces he and Clarissa met with Kyrie Irving and his family Thursday. They do not believe Irving has any beliefs of hate towards Jewish people or any group, and that the Nets, Irving, NBA, and BPA will facilitate a process of forgiveness, healing, and education. One thing that stood out to me in that, and then, there are other examples as more people were kind of tweeting about it. Woj among them, Mark Stein among them, obviously, and then Josiah himself tweeted about this, saying, Clara and I met with Kyrie and his family yesterday. We spent quality time to understand each other, and it's clear to me Kyrie does not have any beliefs of hate towards Jewish people or any group. Mm-hmm. The Nets and Kyrie, together with the NBA and NBPA, are working constructively toward a process of forgiveness, healing, and education. Not listed in a lot of the tweets initially here is any mention of anybody Jewish. that should have been a pretty important part, I would say, of the initial reporting. Now, I will say that Adrian Wojnarowski, in his actual reporting for ESPN, did mention that. I'll read that here. This came a little after the fact, but he goes, so, quote, Irving is expected to engage with a number of constituencies, including meeting with leaders in the Jewish community, and make good faith efforts to show the Nets and NBA of his sincerity before he's cleared for a return to play.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the only mention that I saw, at least initially, of like, okay, so there Jewish people are involved in this process of learning and forgiveness and blah blah blah.
So I don't. So like the thing from LeBron and other guys have said this. People have said it. National media people have said it. I think Jaylen Brown has said it, and LeBron alludes to it in his tweet that. And if people think that the conditions that he had to meet for his return were too severe, okay, I'm not going to argue that with you. Okay, I disagree, but if you think they were too severe, okay.
I would like one of those people to actually explain why they're too severe to me.
Yeah,
that's all I'd ask.
Sure. What I'm having trouble understanding, and I think it misses the point, is like, how do you convince someone you are not anti-Semitic, right? Like, I don't know what's in Kyrie's heart,
especially in a week.
I don't know. I don't know what's in his heart. Like, do I think he's anti? I don't know, and neither does Joe Tsai. The only person that knows what's in Kyrie's heart is Kyrie. So, if Joe Tsai goes and meets with Kyrie and says, "Hey, Kyrie, do you have any hate towards Jewish people? Are you anti-Semitic?" And Kyrie says no, like, okay, that's good enough, I guess. So. I don't even think that's what this is about, really. Even though I am Jewish, and the fact that he promoted those things hurt me. It's not about whether Kyrie is anti-Semitic or not, because we don't know. We have no way of knowing what he actually believes in his heart. I don't know what this changes, because to me, the real problem was Kyrie promoted hate speech, or at least promoted a movie that contained hate speech. He promoted it, whether he wants to believe that he did or that was his intention or not, he did. And that caused hurt for quite a few people. And then when he had the chance to explain himself, when he had the chance to apologize, when he had the chance to denounce anti-Semitism, he chose not to for at least a week. So the fact whether he's anti-Semitic or not isn't really the issue. The issue is he promoted hate speech and then didn't do anything about it when he had the chance to. And that still hasn't changed, right? Yeah. He kind of had those weak trickled in stuff about, I can't be anti-Semitic because I know who I am, or I know where I come from or something. Like, that doesn't mean anything. Or if it does, that requires all sorts of translation and us assuming things. When he was asked, is he anti-Semitic? He could have just said no. That would have been fine.
Chose not to.
When he had a chance to take down this after he realized, and he may not have realized at first that people were harmed. He may not have. And I do believe him when he says it was not his intention to harm anyone. I do believe that. But when he had the chance, once he learned that he had caused harm, he had a chance to take it down. He had a chance to apologize, and he did none of that. So to me, and then he kind of did I don't believe, I didn't make the film. Okay, cool. And then he did there's some parts I agree with or some parts I disagree with. Okay, well, what do you agree with? What do you disagree with? You have had chances for this not to be a thing. And this is not about free speech. And then Kyrie made it about him being the victim. Like, I can do whatever I want with my platform. Yes, of course you can. Of course you can. You can believe whatever you want. You can think whatever you want. You can say whatever you want. But that doesn't mean there aren't consequences to it.
Right. I could say whatever I want into this microphone right now. But if
I don't know what...
If I chose to use my platform that way, Vox would have something to say about it.
I would hope so. So I guess my point in all of this is, I don't know that this changes anything, because for me, at least, I hope Kyrie is not anti-Semitic. I hope he doesn't believe these things. But that wasn't really the issue for me. The issue is he spread them and then stood on it.
Yeah,
There's no way to prove that he's not anti-Semitic. Okay, he said no. Cool. Now Josiah believes him. What does that change?
Yeah, Nike's involvement in all this was interesting to me because, well, for one thing, they waited a little while. They didn't immediately cut ties. They gave him a few opportunities, as is afforded to most really talented people. You do get a few more opportunities when you screw up and you're really talented in the world as it exists now. Like, that's how this works. So they gave him his opportunities, and he, again, like you said, passed on those opportunities and eventually suspended him. Said, all right, fine. We are not going to be doing business with you anymore. And apparently that cost him upwards of like $11 million a year.
We don't think you are fit to be a part of our organization.
Yeah. Now, interesting, this came out at a time when Phil Knight's personal political donations were made public. And there was some, he chose to back some interesting politicians, apparently. But anyway, like I think when it comes to this entire situation, when it comes to people in general, I know I skew cynical. I know I am a cynical person by nature. When Jonathan Sharks was still alive and he and I were having our conversations, the most I think frustrated that he would get with me was when I would tell him, yeah, I think people are inherently evil. Like, I think we have to learn to be good over the course of our lives and practice being good over the course of our lives. We don't just get that right from the get. And like, my cynicism was really at play this week when, before Kyrie's money was messed with, he was real proud to not apologize, not distance himself from this stuff, not take any action that they're talking about here. Once his money was messed with, though, that's when you got that long Instagram apology. That's when you started seeing this process actually start to take place. Then he finally met with Adam Silver. When his money wasn't being messed with, he sent his dad and his stepmom to the Anti-Defamation League in his stead. So, like, in my opinion, it's too soon for anybody to say one way or the other that this guy is not something or whatever. I want to. It's going to take a lot of time, and look, the process has to start somewhere. But I don't think it has to start on a basketball court. The basketball has nothing to do with this. This notion that, like, LeBron is saying, like, he should be allowed to play. Aaron, if I did something that was worthy of further sensitivity training, I would not be allowed on the air until I pass that sensitivity training. And that's if I was ever allowed back on the air ever again. Like, that's all this was.
Yeah, but
they essentially told him, hey, man, like, just like, do the seminar. Talk to these people. Like, just learn about why whatever it is that you just spread is hateful. And this notion that it's like some cross to bear is unreal. Like, what are you guys talking about? Like, what world do you live in? And Frank, like, granted, they live in a very different world than I am because they're significantly more talented at their job than I am.
Right.
But at the end of the day, what's that?
Kyrie is irreplaceable on a basketball floor.
Well, they won their last couple games after he was.
He is irreplaceable.
Boston would disagree.
I mean, look, every team he's been on for like the last 6 years has been better with him off the floor. But his talent is irreplaceable.
Yeah, when he's right, sure. But he just hasn't been right. And again, like, the basketball side of this, that doesn't matter as much to me. Like, I just want to see this. If the point of this is growth, if the point of this is for this guy to actually learn that what he did was wrong, then basketball doesn't fucking matter. The basketball of this, like, whether or not he can make a layup, like, we've known that's never been in question. That's not a part of this process. The parts of this process that actually matter are the stuff that he was reluctant to do until his money was messed with.
Yeah, but see, this is why that doesn't matter to me. I don't know if he's anti-Semitic. I don't know how he would prove that in an hour, a day, a year. Like, how do you prove you are not something?
The process?
I don't know. I don't know how you prove that. That's one part of it. And again, I don't know what's in the man's heart.
Can I ask you this then, Aaron?
Yeah,
do you think he's less anti-Semitic than I am?
Do I think he is less anti-Semitic than you are? Probably, but I don't know.
Right.
I also don't know. Hold on. I also don't know. Is it because did people start messing with his money that caused some action? Maybe. I don't know. Last year, when he refused to get the vaccine and that started messing with it, that messed with his money, it didn't change anything. So I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't know what is in the man's heart. I don't know what his motivations are. That's why
that's a
having
great point.
criteria based on that stuff doesn't matter to me, because I don't know. And there's no way to know other than if you are in his head and in his heart. And I don't know. So the stuff that matters to me is he did something that was harmful, that was hurtful, and then defended it over and over.
Yeah,
Why?
yeah,
Why?
yeah.
Why? That is what matters to me. Why? Not is he or isn't he? Because there's no way to know that.
What do you think of the because one of the sentiments that I've seen, primarily I'm going to say from black people that I've seen talk about this issue has been they, the big word they
Mhm.
are showing Kyrie a lesson,
Mhm.
making Kyrie an example of all of this. And
Mhm.
I, I have my thoughts on that, but I'm curious about your take on that sentiment.
That's complicated because, well, I've said this before on the show. I'm a black man and I'm a Jewish man.
Hmm.
So that is complicated for me. I do understand that sentiment. I do not agree with it in this case. I think that Twitter, as it is, as it is a place for, often breeds extremes. Um, and there is a sentiment among many black people, um, and it is because Christian white people have used it as a weapon to divide black people and Jewish people who have a very similar experience.
Hmm.
Um, that the tropes that are in this movie, and that they are anti-Christian, and for uh, in large parts of the black community, um, religion and Christianity is a big part of it. And there have been these things forever that
Hmm.
the Jews are against that. And it has been a way that the establishment, which is generally white Christian males, have divided black people and Jewish people. So that's what this is. That it is easy to go to that because for some black people, Jews are bad, right? Because
Hmm.
because the white Christian establishment has used it as a tool to divide people.
Hmm.
So I think that's where it comes from, and that is a natural thing. I think it is not as prevalent as it seems because you and I are on Twitter way too much,
Yeah,
and Twitter has,
yeah. Twitter's not
20
real life.
people, 20 people shouting at each other from each side of any issue,
Yeah,
and that feels representative of a much bigger group of people, and it generally isn't.
yeah. All I would say, like, I, I cannot speak to the experiences of a black person. I cannot speak. I mean, hell, half of me can't even speak to the experiences of my own people, right? Like I'm Mexican, but I don't look Mexican,
No.
especially now when I'm not when I'm not out by the pool all the time. Um,
But
so
cleaning it,
I
or
what's that?
like cleaning it, or
But like when I like when I see that, all I would ask is if it was a white player who said who shared this kind of hateful information about about a black community, the black community, would you want that player to be taught a lesson per se, right? um and all I'm saying is all I ask for is consistency, right?
well, let's look.
If
We
we're
can take
if we're
Myles
gonna
Leonard
care
for
about
example.
if we're gonna care about hate speech, if we're gonna say that like we are a welcoming community, then players who spread any kind of hate speech need to be quote unquote taught a lesson. I don't like that phrase because
That
at the end of
that
the
makes
day,
it seem like they're children, but
yeah, like I don't like the phrasing, but like a
that there are
lesson needs to be
consequences.
learned. Like,
That
like you need to
there are
learn that you can't
consequences.
just do this shit.
That
Yeah,
there are
like
consequences. Well, I mean,
part
look,
of
it's
part of
not.
life is doing dumb stuff and finding out you shouldn't do that dumb stuff again.
Yeah, all right, fuck around and find out, right? So it is not a perfect like comparison because Myers Leonard actually uttered a Jewish slur like himself, right? So it is not a perfect comparison. But Myers Leonard found out that there were consequences to hate speech. He has not been heard from since.
Especially when you're as
replaceable he's a white guy.
As Myers Leonard. Yeah.
He is a white guy. Yeah. And he has not been heard from since. And I would agree with people, black people that would say this is not what Kyrie did is nowhere near as bad. I agree. But it is I don't see the like tap dance for me massive part of this for Kyrie. Yeah. Maybe that's because I'm Jewish. And so I am in a group of people that was harmed by this or hurt by this or whatever. So maybe that, of course, that's probably part of it. But I do not see the Kyrie is being treated unfairly because he's black part of this. And again, if people, white people, black people, Latino, whatever, want to say that the punishment doesn't fit the crime, I would disagree. But okay, if people want to argue that, okay. I would say people thought that, though, mostly because they thought that Kyrie was unwilling to do those things, which now it looks like he is willing to do those things.
Yeah.
So, is that because of his money? I don't know. That's why that criteria doesn't mean anything to me.
We're going to find out if he's willing to do those things. You know, they're saying that he seems willing to do those things right now, but we need to start to actually see the action. And until we see the action, the basketball is not very important to me on this stuff. It only matters because he's great at basketball. We're only talking about him because he's great at basketball. He only has that platform.
And for the Lakers' perspective, theoretically, his sixth game would be Sunday against the Lakers. So he is theoretically eligible to come back because the suspension was at least 5 games. It doesn't mean he will or won't, or I don't know where he is in the process of all of these things. But as it relates to the Lakers in this feed, he theoretically may be available on Sunday. I doubt he is, but he may be.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess to try to put a bow on all of this, all I would say, like in response to LeBron's tweet, is like, I think we should take more of a wait and see approach before we definitively say one way or the other anything about this guy.
We don't do that ever. This is Twitter. Are you kidding me? We don't do that. Hell no. I reject your premise.
Fine. All right. That's going to do it here for this episode of The Hook and this week's episodes here on the Silver Screen and Roll Podcast Network. Make sure you guys check out the conversation I had with Meta World Peace. I thought he was super insightful and he was, he's a joy to talk to. Meta, you're always welcome whenever you want to hop on here as well. Aaron always has stuff to do, so you could just kind of swoop in here and take Aaron's spot on The Hook. This was on public? Sorry. I just wanted to see if you're paying attention.
Hey man,
it was fun watching your head kind of go like.
I don't blame you for that one, man. Whenever Meta's here to replace me, man, I'm with it. I like Meta. Meta's a good dude.
He was a lot of fun to talk to,
and he's good at articulating many different things about the NBA and basketball and life.
My favorite response that he had was actually I asked him like, do you ever like get sad watching some guys kind of age? And he said, no, it actually makes me happy. Guys who like have the benefit of being able to age in sports means they were really effing good. And watching them, like that was like a super like enlightened approach, I thought, to all of this. He's a good dude. So check that out. Check out all the rest of the stuff here on this podcast, Silver Screen Roll Podcast Network. And until next week, I'm Anthony Irwin. That was Aaron Larsoul, and this was The Hook.